to week 9 of my 75 soft challenge. I just did my evening skincare routine, so I'm feeling really nice and greased up tonight. But welcome to week 9. If you're new here or if you need a reminder, I am drinking 8 glasses of water, doing physical activity for 45 minutes, reading at least 10 pages of a book, and eating well every single day for 75 days. I can't believe I've made it this far into this challenge. I feel like I only have a little ways to go, so just gotta stick with it. So let's see how this week goes. So I have finished this book, Recursion by Blake Crouch, and this was just not the book for me. As soon as I got done reading it today, I went to Goodreads to mark that I finished the book, and you are prompted to rate the book, 1 to 5 stars. And I decided to not rate this book, or at least not rate it just yet, because I recognize that it's not the book for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm ready to say it's a 1 or 2 star book, because I need a little more time to sit with why it's not the book for me and how I feel about the reading experience that I just went through. I really feel like I went through a lot of waves with this book. There were moments where I felt like, oh, this premise is really promising, it's interesting. There were points where I felt like I like where this is going, I want to see how this unfolds. But then there was still this underlying thing for me there that was like, I have questions about the science that's at the foundation of how this plot works, and it is keeping me from being immersed in the story. So I would not say this is a bad book, it just doesn't land for me. And I'm just disappointed in that, because I wanted to like this book because I liked Dark Matter by this same author a lot. And I would say if you have not read a book by Blake Crouch, don't start with Recursion. I would start with Dark Matter because that's just such a fun read, and this was not that experience for me. Not to say it's boring or not fun, it was just not for me, so I would not recommend that. However, if you've really been wanting to read Recursion or you're already reading it, you might feel differently. I recognize that I'm in the minority with my opinion on this book. This book is very well liked, it's popular, but whatever, I feel how I feel. If you're new to my 75 soft journey or you are unaware, this book is a science fiction book. So there are science fiction elements which can be really fun to read, but when you have, I should use I statements and speak for myself, because I had questions about the science and about how can this work this way, it made the story not land for me, because I just felt like I can't take any of this to heart or any of this as seriously, because I don't see how things could work this way. So that adds an element of disappointment to the reading experience. Like, that's just like not as fun. And it's a downer because I finished 2 books so far on this 75 soft challenge that I really enjoyed reading. They were really fun to read. The pacing was really picking up for me with those other 2 books. Whereas this book was one of those books where I'm like, okay, the challenge says read 10 pages a day. I'm reading 10 pages and I'm putting this down most days because it just wasn't captivating me as much. So for my next book, I am choosing a reading experience that I know will captivate me, and that is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This book is so good. I have read this before. This was or is my first favorite book that I have had. This is the first book that I have read that has really impacted how I felt about consuming memoirs, about consuming people's stories, about how I felt about reading. I've always loved to read, but I remember there was something about this book that really changed the game for me. And I read this when I was in high school, when I was a teenager. So I really want to read this again because I know it was like one of those first books for me that really moved me, and I have not picked it up since. So it'll be really interesting to experience this book now with my adult 30-something-year-old worldview versus being a teenage girl. So I am looking forward to rereading The Glass Castle, and I'll keep you updated on that too.
The temperature has dropped tonight, so that means it's a perfect evening for chili. And I make chili in a really simple way with just a few ingredients. I start off by browning some ground turkey, and I don't drain the fat. I just let the fat soak up into the meat and just leave a bit of the fat in the pot. Then I rinse 2 kinds of beans, kidney beans and black beans, and let those drain for a bit. Next, I season the meat with some garlic powder and onion powder to get a base layer of seasoning in the pot. and then I stir in some tomato paste. At this point, it's all about dumping in the remaining ingredients, letting things simmer so the flavors combine, and adjusting it to taste. So I pour in a large can of tomato sauce and rinse that can with some water and pour that water in too. I dump in the beans, and then I add my seasonings, which are cayenne pepper, sugar, oregano, salt, cumin, and of course, a whole lot of chili powder. This is really so simple to make, but the key is to let this cook, let this simmer, keep checking on it, and adjust it for taste. So here I'm adding more salt, I'm adding more oregano, I eventually added in more garlic powder, and I even added in a little bit of brown sugar. Eventually, I have the perfect pot and the perfect bowl for dinner.
Okay, so I'm about to get changed to go on my walk, but I just wanted to say really quickly that a lot of times when I walk, I usually read my book first, and then I'll start listening to music. Sometimes I listen to a podcast, but I think today I might listen to this Risa Tisa Who the F Did I Marry series. I know I'm late to this because I think this came out around Valentine's Day. I've heard a lot about it. I've read a lot of synopsis about it. I think now I'm at the point where I have more capacity in my day to listen to bits of this and make my way through this over the next few days. So I have already started to listen to this Who the F Did I Marry series. I might continue listening to this on the treadmill. If you've also checked out this series or know about it or had a lot of thoughts about it, let me know in the comments, because I'm a little over an hour in to this so far, and this is like a 5-hour thing. I think I'm a little over an hour in and I'm already like, this is a lot. This is definitely a lot. So if you need something to listen to while you're on your treadmill walks or walking out on your trails or whatever, and you know, would be interested in something like this, give it a try. I feel like I should give some context into what this is and not just assume that if you're watching this video, you're on the internet, and therefore you being on the internet would have exposed you to Risa Tisa and the Who the F Did I Marry series, because maybe you haven't learned about this, but it is a series on TikTok where a woman whose username is Risa Tisa tells her real life story of how she ended up being married to a pathological liar and all the crap that he put her through. And it is definitely a wild ride.
I barely had time to film today, but wanted to share that for dinner, I had these Korean style beef short ribs from Trader Joe's. They're really good, and if you hadn't had them yet, I would highly recommend. We had a little date today and had some burgers. Mine had egg, lettuce, bacon, red onion, and tomato, and I also had some fries. So a little treat yourself moment during this challenge.
So I just wanted to do a little 60-day check-in at this point. I know we're past 60 days, but pretty much let's consider this a 60-day check-in. And I considered not checking in at this point because we're really close to the 75-day mark. So, you know, I could do a much more thorough check-in or results at the end of this challenge, which I will, but still I wanted to go ahead and check in on how things are going. So if you saw my 30-day check-in, you know that for the month of January, which is my first month of this challenge, I did no takeout at all. So I saved a lot of money. I saved like over $400 by not doing takeout. We weren't doing dates as much, so we saved a lot of the money for that budget. February, I'm now into March, but February, I went back to doing takeout, but I will say we did that a lot less. And when I say a lot less, I mean a lot less compared to what takeout looked like right before I started this challenge. So the end of 2023, the holiday season, was doing a lot of takeout. But February, we said, okay, let's get back into takeout, but we weren't doing it as frequently as the end of last year. And it was hard to determine whether I was eating well and still doing takeout because I didn't know, the nutrition facts of every meal that I got and didn't make at home. So what I would just try to do, and what I still try to do, is eat well as much as I can at other parts of the day, and eat well as much as I can throughout the week, so that when I do have those moments of getting takeout, I don't
feel like it's as unhealthy. Another aspect of this challenge is reading 10 pages minimum of a book every day. I am on book number 4 of this challenge, which is impressive to me because I really took a break from reading for, I don't know, nearly a year before I started this challenge. So it's nice to go back to back to back with a reading experience. So I finished 3 books on this challenge: The Last Days of Jack Sparks, White Smoke, and Recursion, and I'm on book number 4, which is called The Glass Castle. So it's good to be back into the swing of things there. Another aspect is physical activity, which most of the time includes me going on a walk, usually on the treadmill. Sometimes I'm doing it outside. But I have to remind myself that the challenge says to have 1 day a week of active recovery. And I've started to build in, within these last 30 days, I've started to build in different ways of what active recovery could look like. It can just look like me taking a moderate walk on the treadmill, like maybe not going as high on the speed on the treadmill. But I've also, decided for myself, it can look like any kind of physical activity. One day we went to an RV show, and that involved a lot of walking around and involved a lot of walking up steps to get into the RVs, getting out of the RVs. It was a lot. I was moving around a lot because I was swelling up in that building, and I swell up when I'm active, and I feel like my heart rate was going. I wasn't running or anything, but it was just so much movement to make it around this huge building full of RVs. So I feel like that day was my active recovery. Recently, I washed my hair, and I washed it at the sink, and that was a workout to have my head bent over and doing all that stuff. Then I styled my hair after. That was an arm workout. It was just a lot of movement to get my hair done, and I was like, you know what? That is active recovery. So I've just started to accept that, active recovery days don't have to look like traditional workouts. I can feel my body moving. I know what feels like physical activity, and I can make those things count toward active recovery. I can probably make those things count toward physical activity, really. And lastly is drinking water. I think when I did my 30-day check-in, I acknowledged that there were some days where I was not drinking the full 8 glasses of water a day. I will say ever since I did that check-in, I have had my full 8 glasses of water every day, except for I think just one day. And I was shy maybe 4 ounces. I think I just fell asleep. So I've been doing a lot better these last 30 something days of the challenge. Still, overall, I think I've been doing super well with this challenge. I've been really proud of myself with the progress I've been able to make and seeing myself, mark off those habits every day. So there's still a couple weeks left to go. I think we can finish strong. Let's do it. Anyway, that's it for this week's update of my 75 soft challenge. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.